The summer of 2010 has seen one of history's largest disasters, in the form of floods hitting Pakistan and devastating the lives of over 20 million people. The impact will be felt for years to come and has reduced the development of the country, forcing it decades back in terms of advancement and progress for its people. The immediate repercussions have seen people in some of the worst conditions ever witnessed. The catastrophe resulted in the deaths of 1,700 vulnerable women and children, and millions more have been forced into abandoning their homes and livelihoods, with little prospect of escaping homelessness. The floods and the repercussions have steadily crept from one side of the country to the other, devastating much of the entire country. The disaster has destroyed crops mainly in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Punjab and Sindh provinces. Causing hundreds of millions of dollars worth of agricultural loss to the farmers, the aftermath of which will be felt in future generations. As the streets became rivers and the water decimated everything in its path, victims ran for their lives, holding on to their children and running to higher ground to save themselves. Most returned to find everything they had owned had been washed away by the floods. With nothing left and nowhere else to go, their only option was to sit and wait for help.
अचानक पानी इतना बड़ा, तकरीबन 3-4 फुट तक अचानक पानी पहुंचा। बड़ी मुश्किल से हमने अपनी जान बचाई और फिर अपने लोगों की बहुत में मदद की, लोगों को निकाला। मैं खुद भी बड़ी मुश्किल में हूं, लेकिन मैं बेसिक ह्यूमन राइट के वॉलंटियर के तौर पे मेरी कोशिश है कि मैं लोगों की मदद करूं।
Basic Human Rights was one of the first international NGOs to distribute food among the flood victims. Immediately after the floods hit the area, BHR distributed food to over 1,000 vulnerable women and children in Pashtungali, Naushera.
बाहर मुल्कों के मुसलमानों रुनो तासु मुंग सरा इमदाद कई तासु ता अपील को मुंग सरा ढेर इमदाद कई मुंग ता ढेर ज़्यादा तकलीफ से अरसमो तबाशु अरसमो गर्क शु आड़मो गर्क शु दौलगे नालाक शु मुंग ता ढेर तकलीफ से मक्की रोजा रागा जामी निश्ता कपड़ी निश्ता नूस निश्ता वाड़ा रात जाड़ी दा दारू दा रख न लगी ढेर ज़्यादा मुंग ता तकलीफ से तासु खुदा खुशार साता मुंग सरा ढेर ज़्यादा तासु तारफ इमदाद कई
Since then, Basic Human Rights has given food, water and medical aid to over 16,000 people in Naushera, Swat, South Punjab and Sindh. Recently, the organization has partnered with International Organization for Migration, IOM, in delivering tents, blankets, kitchen utensils, plastic sheets with ropes and jerry cans to 605 families. around 4,235 people, in Sindh.
बच्चे बहुत परेशान बारिश भी आवेंदी तो तले बांधे से खटड़े खड़े करके बांधे से बच्चे तले शदे लेटन पाए वेंदे हन घर विच होने हन छतों कोल बात चले गए तो घर तो ना हन बहु मच्छर पट गिंदा कोई वेले सांप आवेंदे कोई वेले कुछ थी वेंदा बहु तंग रह गए जितनी हद कन है अल्लाह साईं दी मेहरबानी थी आंदे रह गए वेंदे रह गए तुम्हारी टीम आ गई है BHR सा को आके इमदाद की वे सनल आज बहुत खुश थी थे असा घर चले वे
But every time we arrive somewhere to deliver aid to the most vulnerable, thousands more in desperate need look on with pleading expressions. Over 3 months after the floods began, there are still millions of people who have not received sufficient basic help and are losing all hope. The destruction of agricultural land has resulted in food shortages, which has left thousands of children starving. The elderly and the young are suffering from preventable diseases due to malnourishment, which leaves their emaciated bodies unable to fight the cold weather and susceptible to infections, which are rife due to the poor conditions following the floods. Though the land has dried up, the catastrophe continues. Reports are predicting hundreds of thousands of children are in severe danger of starving to death if appropriate measures are not taken. The effects of winter are harsh, as many millions of those afflicted are still homeless, with no shelter or simple tent. That means those, the majority of whom are women, children and elderly people, have to attempt to survive under sub-zero temperatures with no escape from the unforgiving conditions. A large number of innocent children could lose their lives if not provided with much-needed blankets, food and basic health care immediately.
د انګلند ماشومانو لیو ته خواستې چې موږ ته کلي آباد کړي بیا هغه شان چې څنګه مخکې وو او زموږ سکولونه هغه شان آباد کړي چې څنګه مخکې وو او موږ ته یونیفارم او بوکونه راوړي چې موږ واپس بیا له خیره سره سکول ته روان شو.
It is a race against time. Aid was distributed when the floods arrived, but a lot more is needed to deal with the enduring consequences, especially as winter has just set in. For those hundreds of thousands of children living in terrible conditions, we need your support. With your help, we can save many innocent lives.
دا نه خلک چې دي دا ډېر موږ سره لږ امداد وکړي موږ ډېر خراب یو ډېر خپه یو ډېر پریشان یو هېڅ درک را سره نه لګي د الله په عمل کې ماشومان بچي مې یو ډېره خپه یم هېڅ درک مې نه لګي نه رور لرم او نه خور هېڅوک مې نشته نه مې کور شته دی نه مې هېڅ درک مې نه لګي خدای که موږ سره د الله دپاره لږ امداد وکړي.
Next tonight, an aid worker has just returned from delivering supplies to some of the parts of Pakistan worst affected by the devastating floods.
Anjum Tahir Kelly travelled with her team, taking food, water and medical equipment paid for by money raised largely in Bradford.
While she was there, she filmed the plight of the people she met.
When I actually got there, it was just absolute total devastation. I couldn't in my mind, reconcile that this is where people had lived before. It was just absolute, total devastation. Any of the aid that's been trying to get through to them doesn't get through. It just stops at the roadside, and those that are stronger, who have got more of a will, can make their way there. People are here receiving what's their right. This is their right to have this food aid, and it should have come through a long time ago. The saddest thing is that there are people looking on with pleading expressions, and there was one little boy who was 12 years old, and I saw him from the corner of my eye. He couldn't remember the last time he ate, but he wanted a tent for protection. He wants a camp, he wants a tent, that's all he wants. We can only distribute to 500 people, and it's overwhelming because there are hundreds of people standing here right now, and I wish I could help more. There are 20 million people. It's a mass scale devastation, but yet the aid's been slow.
All day they just kept thanking about the goods they received. They go, the food were beautiful, the food lasts us.
You know, it's a lot for them.
For them, yeah, definitely. I mean, it shows how strong they are, really, because for them to last, or this food to last them for 3 weeks with their family.
We took out basic medical health camp. The diseases that were going around were very simple, preventable diseases, like eye infections.
The distribution point to where they're trying to get back home with all this aid is a good half an hour walk. And they're wading their way back home with the aid, and that's how desperate they are.
Right now it's an emergency response stage. It's food, water and basic medical assistance. That's what they need. 20 million people are affected and only 500,000 have received aid.
Your donations will help in easing the pain and misery of millions of women and children that have been suffering for the past 3 months and will continue to face hardship throughout the coming months. Act fast. Save lives. Please donate to Basic Human Rights by visiting www.basichumanrights.org.uk or call us at 01274 301 996 or 0796 768 7925. Alternatively, you can send your donations to Basic Human Rights, 24 Sunbridge Road, Bradford, BD1 2AA in the UK.